Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. You know, we've had several members of the GLORIO crew in Japan the past couple of weeks, and Zig and Peter have been flooding our Discord with a lot of pictures of very cool things that they're seeing out there. I know for me personally, I want to know how Peter found life-size cardboard cutouts of Eve and Aoi from Birdie Wing to take a photo with, especially since that show has been over for like a year now. I don't know where that was.
The dream lives on.
Yeah, but I don't know. Was there anything particularly cool you guys noticed from all that? Because they found some pretty cool stuff.
I mean, the Kamen Rider stuff I thought was cool. Some of those dioramas and such.
I do just like seeing a big Gundam. So.
Yes, the life-size Gundam.
Didn't Zig find like a Xabungle laser disc or something?
Man, yeah, that cover of that Xabungle laser disc is so good.
That was pretty cool.
Just make that cover the header image of this week's podcast, even though
right.
I don't think we're going to talk about
so serious. Like,
yeah, it's completely different. It looked like it was like, were they going for like an old Western thing or something?
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of a Western in tone, or like in aesthetic, but in tone, it is so much sillier.
Right? Yeah.
Actually, wait. I mean, we are doing the season wrap up, and we did in fact finish the Tomino Power Hour as of like a week or two ago.
Oh, so ironically, you have finished Xabungle recently.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, that's some cool stuff we've seen from all that. But that aside, it is our season wrap up show for the I guess winter 2024. Yes, January to March, the prior season.
The past 2 months have been such a whirlwind for me, due to reasons outside of the purview of this podcast.
Yeah, losing concept of time and space, but yes. We've have quite a few shows to kind of get our final thoughts on, although some of them are either continuing or will be continuing in the at some point in the future. Mm-hmm. But
yes,
before we get into all that, let me introduce everyone. I'm Jel. I am joined by Iro.
I'm still here. I'm not dead yet.
Still with us. And we're joined by G.
I think on this auspicious Sunday that we are recording, Iroh's here and he's not dead yet, but we must remember he who died for our sins for anime, Gabumon.
Gabumon, yep. Yes. God, yeah.
Gabumon was put on the cross and died for our sins.
The only good enduring image from that new... Oh, no, was that from an old one?
I think it was from the
new.
Right?
No, that was from the new Digimon Adventure show, which was not very good, but it did have that hilarious shot of Gabumon tied up on the cross. Yes.
Yeah, I thought we were going to go with a Kamen Rider on the cross
or Ultraman. I mean,
or Ultraman.
So many anime. Or
I think the funniest thing about the Gabumon one is that there's a little platform for his feet.
So he's comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really funny.
So is it really a crucifixion?
I know exactly.
God, what a question to ask. Yes. Well, since this is going on Wednesday, yes, we are recording on Easter Sunday, for context. But and also I guess it'll be April Fool's tomorrow. It's already April Fool's in Japan. I haven't seen if anything wild has been happening.
I've seen a couple announcements that are definitely not real.
Yeah. Although I feel like April Fool's died like 5 or 6 years ago, but anyway. We are also joined by Artemis for this episode.
Hello, good to be here. I did not watch the new Digimon, so I don't know about the screen cap, but I will probably have to look that up at some point.
Ira, you got that on deck somewhere, right? You have to.
I put it in the Discord, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, he died. Oh, wow, yeah. Oh, well, that does look comfortable. He looks like he's just having a nap.
Yeah, I mean, he's just got his arms.
Just got to stretch your shoulders,
Yeah.
It's not like they didn't nail his arms. He's got,
No, this is just
Yeah, they had to dial it down a little bit for the kids, right? Just a little bit. Yeah.
Fun fact: they did actually used to crucify people way back when in Japan too. So
Yeah.
there's a history.
Okay, historically accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let's talk about anime from last season, wrapping things up here. And like I mentioned, there are some shows that will be ongoing directly into this next season, and I wanted to mention them briefly, particularly starting with Dungeon Meshi, aka Delicious in Dungeon, because I thought it finished well. It didn't even finish. They're still putting more episodes out, but the part that is sort of like the end of season 1 that you can tell is the big climax. I thought was very good, so I wanted to just mention it a little bit briefly here. Obviously, we will be talking about the show ongoing later, but yeah. So I really liked the whole climax with the Red Dragon and the which has kind of been the whole plot.
Yes.
Major plot point of the show up to now, and kind of getting
the driving force of
the
beginning.
Kind of getting some version of a resolution of that now, and not dragging that out further was nice. And I think also it ratcheted up the intensity in an appropriate way, while also kind of cashing in the love they've built up with the characters. That the affection I have for the characters that we've built up over 11 or 12 episodes, or whenever we got to the the final bit of the story,
right?
And yeah, I just thought it was some great payoff, and I'm almost like concerned. Are they gonna? You guys know because you read the manga, and from what I've heard. But are they going to blow it from here? Because
that is, I remember I thought the same thing when I was reading the manga, and we got to this part in the manga, right? And I was like, oh man, what are they going to do now, month to month? And I think it does acquit itself well.
Okay. Some could say,
yes,
the real Dungeon Meshi starts here.
Okay.
Yeah.
After the confrontation with the Red Dragon, which I do want to give a shout out to as well, because I think the Red Dragon fight is great, because the thing about Dungeon Meshi, right, is that by and large, the monsters that Laios and his party are fighting are they are dangerous, right? They are framed to be things our party must be wary of, but by and large they can overcome it through through luck and pluck, clever tricks and such, right? Arguably, the biggest thing, the most dangerous thing they fought prior to the Red Dragon was the Undine, the water spirit, and even that is taken care of by more lateral thinking than straight up force.
Yeah, and in that scenario, it was they could also just not go near the water and think about it for a bit, right? They had time to strategize and yeah.
Whereas the thing that's so good about the Red Dragon is because paradoxically the Red Dragon is unique, because it is maybe the one almost primarily conventional fight in Dungeon Meshi up to this point. Yeah, they have clever tricks. In fact, they bust out quite a few clever tricks in this fight. But at the end of the day, it's you're not gonna you're not, you can't be that clever with this thing. You kill it by stabbing it in the weak spot.
Yeah.
It's big, it breathes fire, it's strong. It's just about can you kill it or not? And so yeah, it's fun to see the whole party kind of work together and kind of showcase the various things they can contribute to the team effort.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's a thing that I don't know if I would necessarily want this tonally in every fantasy series, but the thing I do love about when characters do fight in Dungeon Meshi, when they are in just straight up kind of straight brawls like this, I feel like Dungeon Meshi is one of the few fantasy settings that really leverages the fact that powerful, consistent, reconstructive healing magic exists.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you can almost like purposely engage in like self-destructive suicidal tactics like what Laios does
Right.
in the Red Dragon fight,
Right.
because
his plan hinges on like his leg getting bitten off, basically.
yes,
I think you've
but
said
only
some.
only with the right circumstances, like
Right.
yeah.
In
Yeah,
the dungeon.
I think, G, you've
Yeah.
said similar things about mecha fights, right? Where like you can be reckless because it's a robot. Well, in this case, I mean, yes, it's you, but you have the means of putting your leg back on should you lose your
right.
leg, right?
It allows for yes, definitely a certain kind of like fighting sensibility when your life and limb are like not necessarily forfeit in the ways that we conventionally understand. But yeah, so yeah, it's a really excellent climax. I do love that Dungeon Meshi starts kind of playing a little bit with like not overtly, but sort of a like soft horror angle right around here, right?
Mhm.
Because there's the whole like dreading anticipation of cutting open the dragon, right?
Yeah.
The desperation to find Fallen, the state Fallen is found in.
The Marcial having to tap into the dark arts to bring her.
Yeah.
Right.
God. Shoutouts to Trigger's adaptation of Fallen. Well, let's say both of Fallen's resurrections in the last couple of episodes, right? There's the first one where they bring her back from the dead, and it's just like you see the blood and the sinew like weave itself back together on top of her bones. It's so like they do such a great job of really communicating to you that hey, Marcial is engaging with some truly dark ratchet magics here.
Right. This is not the pretty fantasy resurrection. The light comes down from the sky, and your body is now magically repaired. Right. This is like it's a very visceral,
raw meat
disgusting
and
experience.
And you can kind of see why some of the characters react the way they do.
Oh yeah.
Partially perhaps out of a superstitious, well, it's that kind of magic, and that must mean it's bad, right? Like it's dark magic, like only, like certain people would use this kind of magic, but also it is just pretty gross.
Yeah, like we have seen, I mean, that's the thing, we have seen characters brought back from the dead in this show already, right? When Namari gets her brain blown out by the Undine, but it's like it's always been relatively clean and quick, right? Just
and generally fairly comical as well.
Yes, that too. Whereas like this is maybe the first resurrection that is treated with like a real sense of like dread and gravitas.
Yeah.
And then Fallen comes back, and like it's kind of just nice to like have this moment where it's like it's like because we've only kind of seen her in retro like flashback up to this point, like her spending the rest of the episode with the party like really does enforce like how much she meant to these people, right? Like why did they go this hard to the paint for this person,
Right.
Which I suppose then makes it all the more heart-wrenching when Fallen
in
is
some ways
pulled away immediately after.
Yeah, in some ways I was a little disappointed that they so quickly just took her away again. I was kind of looking forward to shaking up the party dynamic a little bit. But also, I think it was kind of interesting to depict, like, you don't just, like, come back from what she went through and everything's fine. Like, between, the fact that she was literally digested and eaten by a dragon and then, whatever dark arts Marcial used to bring her back, like, there has to be some kind of, like, consequences or whatever for that. But, but it does look like we're setting up for the next, I guess, part of the story. You guys warned us about the paintings being
the dark elf who appeared in the paintings episode is revealed to be the mad sorcerer or the lunatic magician, the true lord of the dungeon. And I think it does work. I mean, like Fallen is like Fallen's a really charming character, but it's like, and it is a shame she's like pulled away so quickly. But in some ways, it kind of works, at least for me, on like a meta narrative level, right? Because everybody's saying, hey, if you engage in dark magic, like you are incurring some kind of cost, right? Like whether that means like physically or like I don't know, like meta contextually, like a consequence will happen because you did this.
Mhm.
And as we see, it is that resurrection maybe didn't
Mhm.
go fully as planned, right? Like maybe Fallen did not come back completely the
Yeah.
same. And
Yeah.
and when the lunatic magician introduces himself and does something, right? Does what he does, right? And it's
Yeah.
you understand, oh, like this is the price you pay, and now if you truly want to rescue Fallen, like for good, you're going to have to pay an even larger price, right? You're going to have to delve even deeper, right?
Yeah. And I think it works for if you need to continue the story, which we're gonna do,
Right.
then you have to have some kind of equal or higher stakes to keep going, right? But I did want to talk about the actual last episode though, because I really liked one thing I really liked kind of ties back to what I've said in the past about how like I love the way Dungeon Meshi has the cast like each have their moments to be like right and wrong and whatnot, and this was kind of Chilchuck's turn to be right, but not in the way that I felt like most stories would go with it. Like, I feel like most stories, it would have been like, because in this one, Chilchuck's like, oh, we got to get out of here. Like, I got to convince them to leave. We can't keep going, right? And ultimately, he's kind of proven to be right. But I feel like most stories would have taken it as like, oh, he's going to realize he's wrong, and that through our power of friendship and whatever, we'll be able to persevere and keep going. And instead, the lessons he learns is not to lie to your friends. But it wasn't that he was wrong. It was just that and I felt like that
you just had to be emotionally honest.
Yeah, and I feel like that was such a like refreshing way to handle that situation that I feel like most shows would not have handled it that way.
Yeah, I actually like it's a very like low key end to that episode, right? Because like the first half is like, evil wizard and Marcial's going mode with magic, right? We're beating up blood dragon golems, and then the second half is Chilchuck talks about his feelings, and
yes,
but it works, I think, because it's like. And I think it works because it's Chilchuck, right? Because Chilchuck is the one who explicitly positions himself as the consummate professional, right? He's here for the job. He's, there's no sentimentality for him, or so he claims. And the great development with Chilchuck is you kind of realize that, like, I mean, he is a consummate professional. He is, the best in the biz at his specific thing. But he is kind of a softy deep down, like he does legitimately care for Laios and the crew, and all his talk of like these idiots are going to get themselves killed and then get me killed, and it's like the real subtext there is that, I mean, he frames it as it's about his self-preservation, but it's also about the fact that he does not want to see his friends die, right? Like he is looking at this situation and it looks like an all but guaranteed suicide mission, and he is like adamantly convinced that, like, I will do anything to keep you people alive, even if that means like potentially lying or deceiving you, and as you said, Joe, like in the end, the thing that actually works out is just having like an emotionally honest heart to heart, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think those kinds of nuances are like have really stood out to me in season 1 here as like making this show feel unique and special, even if like, it is dealing with a lot of very classic fantasy type of elements. Like the characterization and the party chemistry is like the real like standout thing to me, and it's stuff like that just makes it feel more special. But I just we're off to a great start. I am looking forward to more episodes, and we'll be talking more about it into next season. So
yeah.
All right. I have less things to say about Sengoku Youko, which is awesome, continuing for several seasons. But into next season,
you done?
I'm sticking with it for now. I think I'm going to give it a little more because I feel like something is probably going to happen. Like I feel like something big is going to happen after we wrap up this kind of
battle
outbreak of very typical shonen battles happening in the past couple of episodes. A lot of action in these past couple episodes, which is, again, they do an okay job with it, but not like anything particularly special, either, animation wise or even just like, in the fights themselves. But
I don't know. I think we're all just spoiled by like this, like, Utapon, My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen era of high octane shonen adaptations.
That's the okay, yes. If we're comparing this to like Dragon Ball filler episodes in the 90s, then yes, it looks pretty.
Like, I don't know.
There's actual motion on the screen.
I will say, like, at least to me, these last couple of episodes actually had me going in the other direction of like, okay, they can do it a little bit.
Yeah, right. No, they do look pretty good. Maybe we are spoiled these days. Perhaps you're right.
Yeah. I will say, at least I think for me, I think the thing with Sengoku Yoko's last few episodes, right? This stretch here, which is about Jinka and the crew are now taking the fight to God, what's the old man's name? Yazen, right? The leader
Kenjiro
of the
Tsuda.
Kenjiro Tsuda. Almost ruined another show on this list. Just barely dodged it. But
we'll talk about that later.
But obviously, I think the thing that's kind of like fun about these stretch of episodes is like it does the classic shonen thing of fights equal character development equal fights, right? Like this moment is about each of the characters kind of coming into their own, or at least in some regard coming to a better understanding of who they are and what they're fighting for, right? You have Jinka, who is like very much, started off as the like, ew, humans gross, has kind of like understood that on some level, humans and Katawara are fundamentally the same. They are beings with their own independent like desires and dreams and hopes. Shinsuke is kind of, coming to terms with like why he went on this fucking, why did he become an edgy murder man, with his confrontation with Barry.
Maybe he's not Batman.
Yeah. And so I think in that context, I think it works out pretty well. I mean, I do just like watching a big, strong Tiger Man boxer who says, "Check out my secret technique," and it's just a boxing straight punch.
Yeah,
and it's like,
it's fun.
But I will say to your point,
go ahead.
I think yes, you have surmised correctly that. And Iro, you can back me up on this, right? But based on, because you were more, I gotta be honest, right? Like I remember Sengoku Yoko's big moments. I do not remember much of the in between, but we are like right on the cusp of like, the first
the season
of the big,
one, as we're like,
yes, the first of the big Mizukami moments in this story.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe you can tell at this point, like. A lot of the charm, I think, of this show is that, and I think probably of all Mizukami works, is that it starts out very boilerplate, like generic, even of like he is hitting all the same notes that you might expect, but is sneaking in the like extra stuff along the way, right? And that is the stuff that builds over time until it can really hit, is how I've always thought of it.
I guess I've been having trouble spotting some of the extra stuff is the thing. I don't know if I don't know how if some of that is adaptation and kind of going very quickly and maybe we're losing some nuance somewhere or something. I don't know. But I mean, I can see the fact that the characters are set up to be like, and have been, changing over time and developing, I think is promising. And I don't know if there's like a time skip or something coming or what's happened. I feel like something big is going to happen after the season one after this kind of season 1 climax thing here. So
Right.
So yeah, I'm gonna stick with it, kind of see what happens, give it a little more time. A lot of that is my faith in Mizukami, but I'll say I have trouble getting excited about turning this on every week.
Right.
Like
That's fair.
I gotta psych myself up and be like, all right, let's watch some Sengoku Youko. But
yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, it's in some ways it kind of sucks that Sengoku Youko is the one that gets a like decent adaptation.
Yeah. we probably would have been satisfied if Biscuit Hammer got this level
or
of
Spirit Circle. Like, hook me up with
in many
Spirit
ways,
Circle.
Sengoku Youko is kind of the slowest burn of
Mhm.
of the great Mizukami works.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, again, we have plenty of more time to talk about that over the next year or whatever, how long it's
6
running.
months,
So,
like, yeah.
we'll come back to that. Okay. What's the deal with Ninja Kamui? Because it kind of started in a weird spot, but
Yeah.
Iro, you said it's still running.
Yeah.
It started like it's not on a traditional anime
right.
season
it's an
schedule,
adult,
right?
on Adult Swim, so it just
Yeah.
is airing
When
as it will.
on their timetable. But
Mhm.
you guys were pretty enthusiastic about the first couple episodes or first episode of this. Has it held up at all?
I would say broadly,
broadly, it's not as fun as those first couple episodes.
yes,
I think.
I think it has definitely tapered off. It has not suffered the typical anime original 12 episode series that goes to complete shit by like episode 7.
No, we'll get to that later.
Don't worry, that's Metallic Rouge.
Uh-huh.
But it's definitely like I think it's
shots fired already.
I think it's just that Ninja Kamui started off so like bombastic, and again, like whether it was intentionally funny or not, it was like one of the funniest shows to at least Iro and I for a while there. And I think even Ninja Kamui is suffering a little bit from the like, well, now it's time to take things a little bit more seriously.
Uh-huh.
We have some real dramatic stories we want to tell here, and it's like, no, go back to the senseless ninja murder, please.
Your story writing is not that good. It's not what you're good at.
Right.
You don't have to do this.
I mean, is this a author not having self-awareness situation? Like they thought they actually were doing a good story before, or
I don't know.
Hard to say.
The past couple episodes have been all about like, because he was like a ninja dude fighting off ninja dudes in the first few episodes, and now they've introduced that like, the villain's big four, elite four top ninjas all have their like cyber ninja power armor, and so our main guy gets his ass beat, and now he has to get his own cyber ninja power armor, which is, and we go into the whole backstory of the person who's making this power armor and how she knew his wife and they were actually secretly best friends or whatever, and I don't care, man.
Didn't need that part. Just give me the power armor, the ninja power armor.
Is this an original thing, or is it adapted?
It's an original.
Okay, so they were not obligated to throw in like an involved backstory. Okay.
And so
go ahead.
Yeah, it's has not had a lot of crazy ninja murder the past few episodes, and also all the ninja power armor is CG, which is a little disappointing.
Yeah, because it's just the real. I mean, look, it's kind of the same thing that happened to Garo as well, right?
Yeah,
where it's like ironically the fights were kind of better when they're not in the armor.
Garo acquitted itself in the end. I think
it did.
enough
I think it did.
wacky stuff happening, but
yeah. But I would say it's like just it's a thing of like the ninjas that like they were fighting at the start of the show are all like fucking wacky like weirdo gimmick fighters, and then now it's just like here's a guy in power armor and here's another guy in power armor. and
Yeah.
this one can shoot lasers with his power armor, and it's like, all right, man. It's like,
Yeah. Like, what was the crazy thing in the first? At the beginning, wasn't there?
It was the Uber Eats delivery driver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the Uber Eats guy, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a little disappointing. But I mean, you guys still enjoying it though, broadly?
Sure.
I mean, it hasn't fallen off enough for me to like completely like write it off. And my hope, of course, is that now that we've gotten the backstory out of the way, and the latest episode finally had the top evil ninja tell the like Sasuke equivalent like rival character who was like best friends with the main character back when they were young. He said, "I give you permission. You may now go kill him." And so it's like, okay, I guess we are setting up for like hopefully some like big climactic like confrontation soon, which hopefully brings back some of that energy. But we'll see.
Yeah,
he's still got to kill his way through the Elite Four. It's
right.
just how these things tend to work out, right?
Right. So there's still hope for some fun there.
Yeah. And, he's good at Sengoku Park's still one of the best action directors out there.
Right. Okay. Well, that's another one we will check in with then later. Let's get into shows that are actually done, at least for now. And we can start with Frieren, Beyond Journey's End.
We're finally out of the Wizard DMV.
We finished the exam. We kind of went out with a whimper, although ironically, I feel like that kind of made it feel more like the old Frieren again. Finally,
yeah.
Yes. Their final exam is just walk into Seri's office and she will tell you yes or no. That's just their final test, right? And it's all much more back to being much more low key sort of mood and everything. There's no fights or anything, just at least perhaps some psychological battling, but other than that, I felt like we were calming down and going back to business as usual. And
enjoy
of course,
while you can.
Of course, Frieren somehow does not get her license, but she doesn't care. And of course, Fern does get it because somebody has to for the story to continue, right? Yep. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, we've kind of already said everything there has to be said about this second half of this like second season, as far as like spending way too much time on the exam and all the extra characters and everything. I'm hoping that's done now, but maybe I'm wrong. Because once again, they failed to make me care about like any of the additional characters, other than maybe the old guy.
Okay, well, you like the old guy?
Yeah, he was fine.
Well, okay. How what if you had a whole season about the old guy?
Okay, I don't want a whole season about him, no. But
you sure you sure it's right here?
Okay, you know what? So long as it's not the aside from what's her name, Ubel, the murder girl. The other guy that I really hated was the white hair guy that's also murderous, but they make him very. They try to make him very legally distinct from Ubel's type of wanting to kill people.
Right.
They like really try to sell, but no, he's actually like a really good guy. Really, he is. I'm like, nah, I'm not feeling that one. Yeah. As long as he doesn't get a season.
I mean, Frieren seems like it's the anime has like blown up to such a degree. I was almost surprised we did not get the like season 2 announcement.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because I do feel like that feels inevitable, but they did not.
I guess I would say it's like, I think following the events of the manga, I think there is just enough to cover a second 26 episode season if they were so inclined, but maybe they kind of want to wait it out a little bit or whatever.
Another 26 episode season would basically go right up to where the manga currently is, right?
Right. That's what I mean. There's I guess the issue is like what that would cover is not another 26 episodes of like episodic idyllic adventuring while, you know, meditating on the transience of life. It's like 3 rather lengthy arcs is what like a hypothetical season 2 would be covering. And some of those arcs are, at least amongst the fan base, maybe even more contentious than the Wizard DMV for some people. And, you know, but it's also the thing of, like, you know, let it be said, right? The anime did a lot of heavy lifting for this source material. I mean, we didn't even get to talk about it because it was we were doing our preview podcast last time, but in all fairness, like, watching Frieren rip out her, like, 9th level spells for the first time in the show did make that part a lot cooler than it was in the manga, where I think in the manga it's literally just like a typical DBZ beam battle. Whereas, like, here, the animators at Madhouse were like, what if we just made magic whatever the fuck we think it should be?
What is the strongest level of spell? Right. Yeah. What are your endgame spells that clash
you know,
against
like
each other?
Summoning black holes and you know, shit, you know. And that's not to say that like it fixed like not very good writing, but it's more like, you know, sometimes you put enough flashing lights into something and it can kind of make you forget
that
how they got here was not that compelling.
Yeah, it has looked amazing from start to finish for sure. And they really, it was some very creative, like, visual depictions of whatever was going on. It wasn't just like you said the beam battle, right? Like there was all kinds of things happening. It was really cool to look at. And you know, I on like, I guess net enjoyment, I did enjoy the second season, right? Like more so than I didn't enjoy it. I just
it's not like it's, you know, this is not a, like, you know, to be clear, right? This is not a, like, you know, a like, well, let me just look at this current season. This is not like a Metallic Rouge-esque complete
collapse,
complete disaster,
collapse on itself, right? It's just that, like, in many regards, the thing that you could actually just throw at Frieren is just that the ratio of what the story focuses on shifts, right? Like, I would even tell you in a hypothetical season 2, there would still be episodes where it's just like, you know, here's the random town of the week we visited, and here's Frieren talking about how, you know, spicy Cheetos was always Himmel the hero's favorite or something, you know, like there's still those moments. It's just, thank you. It's just the ratio of how much that is to the, like, you know, to the, like, arcs and, like, big spectacle stuff kind of changes as the story goes on. It's not that it necessarily ever disappears, but
I mean, that's the thing, and I like having the big spectacle as like the kind of occasional thing and not the main thing. So, I don't know. It's from what you guys are saying, maybe they never quite get the balance back, but you know, I think it wouldn't take much to kind of fix my problems with season 2, right? Like it just kind of swing the balance back. So, but yeah, I mean, overall. It's a I think I understand why it's popular. I think people should watch it. Like, I'm not saying people shouldn't watch it or anything, or that it's bad.
I've seen it, this is a one that has broken out among, like, more mainstream audiences, I think.
I think a lot of people will enjoy watching this. You know, a lot of our criticism of the second season is coming from us, and a lot of people love it. You know, a lot of people like these characters. You know, I will say, I always have to ask why there's a large portion of anime degenerates that are really into armpits.
Damn.
I think there's, I think if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But a lot of these characters are popular with other people, let's say. So
what about the, like, various shots of Suri's feet directly in frame?
Oh my god, that was, like, so noticeable. It was like
feet feet are a little more conventional. We don't have to get into
Are
this
they?
discussion.
Man, I mean, we can't get into this
You're
tier
right,
list.
you're
Here.
right.
Yes, there's
I
definitely.
feel like that's a little more common than armpits, but we can't. Let's move on.
Oh God, but just
Frieren's a
definitely.
great
There's
show.
Yeah,
Frieren's a great show, everybody.
There is also an
Mhm.
animator at Madhouse who clearly cannot help themselves. So
Yes. Frieren's a great show, everybody. I think it's worth checking out. Definitely. I mean, it might end up being in my top 5 by the end of the year. Still, like,
Yeah.
if I'm gonna like grade the show as a total package from episode 1 to episode, God, what was it, like 28 or something?
Yeah.
It's I don't know if it'll ever be my number 1, but it can make my top 5. I think it's got a chance. So,
Yeah.
all right, yes. Let me rapidly change the subject to Apothecary Diaries.
Yeah.
And this is now over for now, but they did announce a second season. Is that correct?
Yes. Season 2.
yes,
confirmed.
this got the last episode season 2 announcement treatment.
So how are you all feeling about where we have left off?
Yeah. How are you folks feeling? Because I've read the manga, so I'm familiar with what's going on.
Well, okay, I could go first. Yeah, I broadly enjoyed it. I think, I think the way it finishes is it finished pretty strong. Obviously it kind of culminates in the big like confrontation between Mao Mao and Lacan,
Yeah.
right? And kind of gets into his like his obligatory shady guy with a tragic backstory. Kind of montage, right? We kind of see like, we are told, or it is revealed to us, right, that Lacan suffers from face blindness, right? He cannot distinguish facial expressions, and kind of how that affected his life, and like how it affected like the way he related to people, which is, I guess it's kind of the funny thing, right? Of my initial reaction was like, oh man, we're doing it again. We're gonna redeem the shitty, shady character by saying that, oh, actually, don't you understand? He was very sad. But then I like had to take a step back and like actually take stock of like, well, okay, hold on. How many actually shitty things has Lacan done up to this point? And it's like, not, I guess, in terms of action, he has not actually done anything that bad. He's just a dude that gives off utterly rancid vibes.
Yup.
But like if you actually like quote unquote objectively look at what he has done so far, he's just kind of a weaselly, shady, shitty looking dude.
It's mostly because of his like very smug persona,
right?
And he knows it's smug, and he doesn't really care. Which is fine. Like I agree that he hasn't himself done anything like morally reprehensible per se, but I think he is extremely self-centered, and like his quote unquote condition aside, which is pretty funny. Sure. Yeah, he's a shitty person because of his personality, not because of really anything that he does. Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm still. I think why I'm broadly okay with how it wraps up, right? Is because it's not like Mao Mao like has some big sentimental like I forgive you, daddy moment or whatever, right?
Right.
Like it's just that no, he's a shitty dude, and I don't want to like really associate with him. It's like sometimes that's fine, right? Sometimes that's as far as it needs to go.
Yeah, but she does engineer the like whole business with the
right. Yes.
With the verdigris house.
Yes,
where,
so that he can.
Yeah, with the last episode is the condition of his loss to Mao Mao is that he has to buy out a courtesan at the brothel, and the courtesan in question is the lady who was locked up in the annex in the back.
Yes.
AKA Mao Mao's mother. which was seeded many episodes ago.
Yeah, no, yes, right.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
it is a nice way to kind of wrap things up, right? Because it is also showing that, like, Mao Mao is, like, not the most sentimental person, but she's not, like, a fucking sociopath either. Like, she
Right.
understands how much this reunion means to, well, at least Lacan, who is, like, cognizant enough to understand the meaning of this
Right.
reunion. And, like, as they say, right, it's like, Feng Hua's, like, condition is, like, I mean, it's towards the end of the line here for her, right? And so, in some ways, it is the type of, like, small mercy that Mao Mao can afford to both of these people that she herself does not have a particularly close relationship with, but she understands, like, how much these two meant to each other and their relationship to her, and can grant them that at the very least.
Yeah.
So, are you all excited for another season?
I mean, the thing that's kind of, like, ironically, it's kind of maybe it is like it kind of does fit to discuss this right after Frieren, because as someone who's not familiar with the source material, the vibe I get from, like, the Apothecary Diaries is like, I mean, well, I guess, is a season 2 just more? Is it just
I think
more
so.
weird mysteries got to be solved?
The thing is, when this was announced for anime, and I was like, okay, 2 cours, I looked at, like, what I had read of the manga and went, okay, I see where you end this first season, which is why here. But then, like, I think to a, like, hypothetical season 2, and I'm like, I don't know what you do with that. I don't know where you go, or, like, where it stops, because it kind of is just more stuff, right? More of what the show is.
I'd be done with that. I'm not familiar at all with the source material. And I wouldn't say I think excited is the wrong word. It's not the kind of show where you finish the week and you're like, oh man, I can't wait to watch next week. It's going to be lit.
Right.
Like, not really, but I am excited, like, in a low key, because it's an enjoyable show, and it did end up being, like, kind of one of the highlights of the week as far as the ongoing anime goes. It just wasn't a highlight in that intense, like, oh man, I got to watch more, I got to see it now. It was chill vibes. I'm good with more of that.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to give you more of what people liked about the show, I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, I think my one concern, not that I don't care for the kind of will they, won't they relationship thing. But, like, I don't really care either way. I'm not for it. I'm not against it. It's just kind of there for me. I don't want them to go all in on that and make that the focus of the series. I don't think
it becomes the main focus. Like,
okay, that's, I mean, because I kind of feel similarly to Artemis, where I was like, I mean, the end of the season almost felt like they were throwing people that bone, right? Cause, like, all right, we know what you all want to see. You want to see some Jinchi Mao Mao shipping. All right, here you go, have some. But there's
it's cute, it's funny, but it's not the highlight of the show for that.
Right. I definitely agree with you on that. Like, it's like, I don't mind it in the show. It's just like, I was like, hey, yeah, exactly. I hope it doesn't become the like primary focus, right? So I'm more here for Mao Mao, like, Chinese medicine Columboing her way through
mystery shenanigans. Shenanigans. The occasional kind of more intense episode where a life might be at actual stake, maybe even hers on occasion. But basically,
is that
pretty easygoing?
Is that the pitch for the show? Chinese medicine Columbo?
Kinda. I don't know. Columbo big in Japan.
It's not a bad pitch.
I mean, she's not quite as she doesn't have the same effortless charisma
as Peter Falk.
As Peter Falk, but definitely in the, like, curious you would mention that when I noticed on your fingers, blah blah blah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and definitely just such a huge cut above almost any other kind of mystery-centric anime, because it does not. I don't think the genre has a great track record.
No.
It leans generally far too much into the whole Sherlock Holmes thing. Like, it just can't leave it alone.
Yeah.
butchers it whenever it does. It's just
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
nice to. It would be nice to stay that way.
Yeah.
This show seems like it's been well received, and like the second season makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So next show on our list is Dr. Elise, the Royal Lady with the Lamp. We have not been talking about this, but Artemis, you said you actually finished this, which
Yeah, I watched all I think 12 episodes of it.
Okay. I before you get into it, I was kind of surprised because, like, first of all, when you mentioned it, I did not remember what the show was.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's not the kind of show that's that memorable.
So like I actually
I have no clue what this is.
Even after I looked it up, I still didn't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But then I went to theglorioblog.com and looked at her first looks and realized I watched
first looks. Yeah.
I realized I watched the first episode and I still didn't remember what it was.
Yeah, it is not the kind of show that leaves a strong.
Oh well, yeah. I did remember after I saw our first look, and then it jogged my memory. But this is the one. This is like the one that started out like in modern day or something, and she was like a doctor.
This is like an isekai, like
right.
Okay.
She gets isekai'd multiple times.
She's in super brief. It starts off in the modern day where she is an actual doctor, and then she had a past life in an alternate universe, but it wasn't like in a game. It was like a real thing,
right?
Like that was her original life, and she died there. So actually, her modern day doctor life is the isekai technically.
So okay, let me guess. She dies,
and then she
goes
takes
back.
a plane trip, and she dies and gets reincarnated back into her original alternative universe life, where she's going to have to redo things because she died horribly there because she was a terrible person.
You would you say she was a villainess?
Well, yes, I would.
Yeah.
Yes, she was.
Oh my.
Although to be fair, the show doesn't really go into it. Like, you get the very occasional flashback, but that's not really the focus of the show. It doesn't like every now and again it kind of gives you like a 5-second flashback kind of thing.
So is this a like, with my doctoral knowledge, I will teach these medieval roots about germ theory.
Okay. Kind of, but not really. It's more like with my doctoral knowledge, I will go back, become an actual doctor in that world, and then save people. There is a lot of not technology, but a lot of terms and things that I would not expect a place like that to know. But then again, it is fictional, so what would I know? They can do what they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't think it's the kind of show that's too concerned with internal consistency. So if it doesn't care, I probably shouldn't care that much either. The reason I ended up jumping back into the show after a fairly mid or an extremely mid premiere is that I have a friend who was a nurse, and I kind of dropped it as a joke. I was like, haha, like, you casually watch anime, you should give this a shot. And he did, and he thought it was hilarious. And so we ended up doing a watch along.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
See, this is where I feel like this is where our decades of watching every anime that comes out has poisoned our opinions. Whereas, like, somebody who has never seen a show like this might actually find it kind of very.
He is an anime fan, but he doesn't watch every anime kind of thing. It's more like every now and again he'll watch an anime. And the fact that he is a nurse is really making the show an entertaining one for him. And what better to, a mid-show can be elevated to great heights if only you watch with a friend and the amusement factor is there. So
yes,
with the right company,
yeah.
I mean, that is the entire history of every bad show Eero and I have watched on the GLORIO chat.
Like, let me just give a couple of brief. I won't talk about the show overall. Overall, the show is mid. It starts off mid, it ends mid. It is
very average. Right.
An average show. It's fairly cheaply made. I wouldn't not recommend it. It's not terrible, but it's not a show I would go out of my way to recommend to anyone in particular, except this one time, but a couple of highlights, doctoral highlights from the show. There is like a carriage a horse carriage accident, and she has to, in the middle of the pouring rain, like make a splint with a walking stick and like do this guy's leg. There is probably the biggest highlight is that there's a ball, and one of like an elderly character chokes, and they have to. The main character grabs a steak knife from off the table.
The old
emergency tracheotomy,
right?
Yes, or like and then gets like I think it's a straw from a cup or something.
Classic. Yep.
I guess they do have plastic straws in this one, and
Sure.
Yep. I remember doing this in Trauma Team for the Nintendo Wii.
Yes. And there are consistently some great moments like that kind of scattered throughout the show. So the chances are, if you do have any kind of actual medical knowledge, there will be at least one point every episode where you'll be like, this is so good. It's so bad, it's so good.
You guys could have done like a real nurse reacts to.
Whoa!
I really missed monetizing this. Yeah, opportunity wasted.
Gotta monetize our friendships.
Monetize your friendships, folks. Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if that's already been done. To be honest,
yeah.
Like the only reason it might not have is because it is just such an under the radar show because no one really cares about it.
Right.
But it might be there. Maybe go YouTube that might show up. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a show that you guys should watch. So you're good.
Yes.
Okay.
Like you said, under the right circumstances, like that could be fun, right?
It was fun, and just on occasion, even aside from the medical stuff, it had its moments. I will say, not necessarily on purpose, but it did have them.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, and the outfits are very funny. Like if you know anything about historical outfits, you will definitely laugh.
It's Regency gowns and the like.
This is not. Oh boy. There was no reference images used.
This ain't Kawamori.
Nope.
Right.
Nope. This is pretty egregious. It's great.
Okay. Well, let's talk about another one you finished here, Artemis. Debatably the second most gay show on this list, but we'll talk about Bravern later. But yes, Cherry Magic, 30 Years of Virginity can make you a wizard. I'm glad I got to say that title one more time. But
yeah. Well,
how did this end up turning out?
You will be happy to know that by the end of the show, he is no longer a wizard, and we can all guess why he is no longer a wizard.
Oh, hey.
Although it is actually heavily implied that it's more due to like romance than the actual sex thing. Basically him being able to say I love you with confidence and just because he wants to and not out of any like anxiety or you know what I mean? It
is the completion of the character growth. That allows the person to come to terms rather than the act that they were pursuing.
Exactly. And it is, to be fair, an extremely wholesome moment and a pretty wholesome series in general. I liked that they are very explicit at the end with the romance and the sex. Like it's nothing is shown on screen, but they are shown in bed together, naked, obviously about to have the act. And then that's the second to last episode. And in the final episode, they wake up in the morning naked in bed together, and he is no longer a wizard. So it's not ambiguous in the least. And at the very end, in the little epilogue, I think it's post-credits epilogue, there's a wedding. Everyone is there, like his co-workers are there. They're all happy for the couple. Everyone's like, they're in white suits and everything. It's a chapel. Mm-hmm. They have their nameplate on their door of their shared apartment now.
Really making no room for interpretation.
Yeah, no, it's
which is great.
I don't know what you're talking about. If this show was owned by Sunrise, they would merely tell you that these were very good friends.
Yes,
and those are known as best friends forever rings.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And best friends put their names on the same nameplate.
Yeah.
Yes. While they're sleeping together naked in bed.
Or if you are a 90s kind of magical girl series, then you could just be very friendly cousins.
Oh, yeah. That's...
Man.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's going back, but yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I was really happy with how clear everything was. They didn't try to make it like overly sexually explicit, but it was very romantically explicit, and there was
Right.
zero question about it. And it was cute. Like I'm happy that aside from like maybe one or two vague heading in that direction instances at the very beginning of the show, there was none of the kind of more problematic aspects of the genre that tend to crop up.
Everything was consensual.
Everything was consensual. Everything was, like there wasn't a weird, even aside from the consent issue, there was no weird relationship dynamics where one is very clearly the dominant, like emotionally and sexually and physically dominant one in the relationship. It's very much a give and take, and the series does take pains to kind of get into both the characters' heads at various points to see where they're at, and that they are both anxious about things and both have human vulnerabilities that they might not want to share with the other because they're self-conscious about it, etc.
Does it things stay pretty chill for most of the series then?
Yeah, it's very chill. The biggest thing that kind of happens towards the end is that the main character gets an offer to get a job transfer, basically.
Of course, yes.
To it's still in Japan, but to I think it was Nagasaki, so like down in Kyushu, and he ends up accepting, and so they have like a long distance relationship for I think a year.
Okay.
But there was like one kind of dramatic episode where that's a thing.
Yeah.
But they kind of just was past that and then speed towards the epilogue where he comes back and they get married and live happily ever after.
That's a classic, force people to confront their feelings move, right?
Right. Yeah. It was pretty obvious. It wasn't terribly original. There could have been literally any other dramatic plot point with the same emotional like issue at hand, and it would have fit just fine. I was whatever about it, but overall I was really happy with just how wholesome the show was, and if I think it's not really, I'm almost hesitant to call the show a boys love it all, just because that genre is just so heavily associated with certain stereotypes, like character stereotypes and such, and it doesn't really fit. But broadly speaking, I think regardless of whether you're a boys love fan or not, this is a pretty decent romance show that is remarkably free of major issues.
Right.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like a fun, wholesome time.
Yeah, and it's always nice to see shows about like working adults, right? Like as opposed to high school,
Yes,
college,
these
or
are not
what have you.
right.
Yeah,
these are like, as the title implies, these are people like over 30, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah, I do wish that adult working shows would get out of their general advertising industry or whatever. Like it always seems to be the vaguest.
Vague.
Where do you work? A company that does
vague office work.
Office stuff. We do stuff with
business
ads
thing.
and stuff. There are documents. There's overtime documents. Yeah.
I need to file a report by Friday.
There's a client who's angry about that thing.
Meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that turned out pretty good. They stuck the landing.
Yeah.
It's good to hear. I guess on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Careening into the surface of the earth at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You guys managed to finish. You guys managed to finish Metallic Rouge?
No, there's one episode to go.
There's one episode left. Oh God.
We're not even free yet.
Okay.
but it's fine. We can talk about it. It doesn't matter.
I'm so glad I gave this. I'm so glad I gave this up a while ago. Please tell me all about it.
Man, this show is just like
a mess.
Like, there are shows that are just like bad, you know, it's just like, oh, it's just not a very well made show, or just it's not good, you know, and oftentimes we don't even bother with those anime in any given season, right? And then there's something like Metallic Rouge, which is maybe the more infuriating version of a bad show, in which it is a story that is convinced it's cooking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When you can tell the writers think they're like they've written a masterpiece or something, right? Like, yeah.
Every passing episode, I feel like my comparison of Metallic Rouge to David Cage's Detroit Become Human.
Oh God,
less and less harsh.
Oh God,
yeah, just
like, as we talked about last time, right? The big quote unquote conflict was that the android terrorists who, you know, are fighting for the freedom of all androids who in this world are put under, you know, basically like wage slavery, want to, you know, forcibly emancipate themselves by using Code Eve, a some kind of program that will undo the like behavioral restrictions that are placed on every android in the setting. And Rouge, you know, as we all know, you know, what was it? A man chooses, a slave obeys. Well, don't worry. Rouge chooses to enforce slavery.
Yeah. Also, right. Yeah. Didn't they frame it as like her taking some sort of absurd middle ground that didn't make any sense? Like, is that what I got from last time? Or
yeah, because
when you take the middle ground, you're still enforcing the slavery. So
it's the status quo, right? Because her middle ground is her middle ground is stopping the terrorists and stopping them from self-emancipating. So, like, it's not really a middle ground when you think about it, right? Even like half a second.
Yeah.
Anyways,
they've introduced some various other dumb, like, ridiculous plot twists that have no real bearing on anything. Like, what Gene Junghart is, his father was a Neon, or so, right? Like, one of the Immortal Nine is Gene Junghart's father.
Like, yes, it's just like,
sure.
and then they're dropping all these like twists of like, oh, and then like you know, the puppet master, you know, pulling the strings from the shadows was isn't that
was Roy Junghart.
Right, that was Roy Junghart, right?
Who was supposedly dead from the first episode or whatever, except it didn't matter then either.
It's just like, it's such a messy show at this point. Like, it's trying to like tackle so many different topics. Like, you know, we were just talking, you know, we're here just talking about the like socio-political angle of it, but there's also the like, you know, the contrast between Rouge and her sister Cyan, and about how like Rouge tells Cyan that like, you know, freedom means being able to make your own decisions, no matter how convincing the voice in your head tells you otherwise. Except, you know, it doesn't work because, like, Rouge has not made a single valuable choice of her own this entire show. And then there's also you know, Naomi started off, you know, as Rouge's partner for her own, like, kind of, you know, hidden agenda, but like now they truly are friends and they trust each other, you know, and, you know, Naomi truly does want to become BFFs with Rouge, you know. There's the part where it's like, oh, you know, the android terrorists start turning on each other, and it's something about how radical elements can never truly coalesce into anything meaningful, and it's like, I just wanted to watch the cool robot lady beat up other. I mean,
right?
this is you know what? Similar to Ninja Kamui, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to see the cool fights. I don't know why.
You don't have to make these shows with like some sort of grander scheme in mind, some like plot statement you want to make. The statement you can make with these shows is just, there's cool stuff here. Look at the cool things we designed, and we're going to smash these action figures together. And
I mean, I want people to have like themes and messages, but
Sure.
also just don't do them badly. I guess stop doing it bad.
I don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is like I don't need it to be a given that those are in there, right? Like,
right.
And
It's doing more harm than good in this situation.
If you feel if you if you don't have the chops to do that, don't do it.
Right. But that goes back to G's original statement where they feel like it sounds like the authors think they have the chops.
It feels like it, right? It's like
like
so much of the show's focus is on that stuff now.
Right. Like I would say like the fights are like a very small portion of the show at this point, right? I mean, there are fights that get skipped over entirely. There are fights that are like just wrapped up in like seconds. It very much feels, there are fights that happen off screen. It just feels like, oh, like this show has explicitly decided to make the story and its narrative themes the primary focus of the show to its like tremendous detriment.
Yeah.
Because, this is actually a perfect segue. So, since Iro and I finished the Tomino Power Hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, don't worry, I'm not going to spend 30 minutes talking about it here, but we're like, well, damn, we need something new to watch. And so we decided on the 1998 sci-fi anime Outlaw Star. And,
oh boy.
We watched the first episode of that. And in the first episode of Outlaw Star, we were introduced to the cool gunslinging bounty hunter Gene Starwind. He's a cool dude
and his
who lives,
kid buddy
Jim Hawkins, and they're just a couple of cool dudes living in their hovel that's like a repurposed like a mechanic's garage, and they just take care of odd jobs around town and take down bounty hunters, and Gene's just a cool gunslinging dude, but deep down he's never been to space. He can't really call himself an outlaw star, and and there are crazy evil space pirates that are after his current client, and they use mystical Taoist magics and weird cyborg men with claws. And it's a fucking rad, cool-ass show. Even the USB cables in this show look cooler than anything I've seen this season. There's a fucking, like, coax cable that just gets, shown for, like, 5 seconds, and it's got, like, 17 fucking doodads attached to it.
That is a show that understands the assignment. Yeah.
Yes, and
right.
It just felt all the stronger that the thing that bothered us most about Metallic Rouge is like, again, as you said, Joe, I don't want to like tell creators, hey, don't try or don't like try to tell interesting or like sophisticated stories, but also like, yes, understand the assignment, know what you are working on. And I think it is actually the strength of a really good team or really great artist when they lean into the strengths of the story they are telling. And I think Metallic Rouge, that's the thing. It feels like a show that looks at stuff like Nier Automata, right? Like Pluto, and is like, we could do that. And it's like, no, you.
Yeah, coming hot off of Pluto last season, or was it last season?
Whenever
2 seasons ago or something.
Last year.
Yeah, last year.
Well, this season we're currently talking about is the beginning of 2024, right? But
yes.
Not that long ago, Pluto happened. It's not doing this show any favors, right? Like we've covered those themes so well in other media that you really got to either bring something amazing or find some new take on it. And then when you just have this very lukewarm, mediocre approach to it, it's just. I mean, is there anything redeeming left in the show at this point? Like,
I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm so watching it just like because we're this far in at this
because you only have 1 episode left, right?
Yeah.
I guess another
the final
episode
fight looks cool. I guess
hope so.
That's about as much as I could hope for at this point.
Yeah. What a disappointment.
Yeah. So I feel like going into the season, this is a show we had like some of the highest hopes for, right?
Yeah. It's
We gotta just stop believing in
I know.
anime originals with cool introductions.
Yeah.
Because it is clearly burning us every single time.
Almost every single time.
Oh, you're
I
right.
think-
You're right.
I think
We
this
keep
might be
touching the stove and it burns us, but then maybe the last show on this list doesn't burn us, or it burns us in the right way.
So I do think this is perhaps a good time for me to bring up once again the Curse of Kenjiro Tsuda, because
Well, yes.
I'm going to leave the jury out on Sengoku Youko.
Sure.
Metallic Rouge certainly reinforced the curse.
Mm-hmm.
But he makes a surprise appearance in the final episode of the final show on our list. Bang Bravern.
Yep.
And how have you guys felt about the final? Because we didn't talk about it last time either. So we've got like the final 4 episodes, basically the whole build up to their final assault on the death drives, right?
I like it.
How have you guys been feeling? How have you guys felt about it?
Yeah, I had a good time with it. I definitely enjoyed our time with Bravern. Now that I've had a couple days to kind of think on it, I think I've cooled a little bit, just because the more and more I think about it, every major criticism I have of Bravern kind of just comes down to the fact that it's 12 episodes, right? That's kind of what it is, right? It's just the reality is that this show is what it is because it is not a 26 episode series. It is not a 50 episode series, right? Much of the show does feel very truncated, very abrupt towards the end. But I would also say,
why was that guy drinking the lava there? What did he even do?
Right.
That dude, you're right. Right. Why was that dude there other than the fact that they needed 7 deadly sins or whatever?
Right.
That's stuff like that definitely stands out as oh, you straight up ran out of time, huh? So
if this was a 20-something episode series, he would have had his own bespoke episode where they had to figure out how to stop him from drinking the Earth's core or something, right?
Exactly.
It's sort of the thing is I think I talked about this with UG, is that this show is borrowing a lot of the aesthetics and tropes of Brave shows, Super Robot anime, and those are almost all year-long kids shows, right? Where every time there's a new power-up, you can have 2 more episodes about them using that power-up in different situations, and then we can introduce a new thing. Or if there's an enemy, there can be more time fighting that enemy. Each death drive would probably have its own little squad of, mooks or whatever to fight.
Yes.
All this stuff is stretched out so much, and so to have Bravern crunch it all down so much, it becomes more obvious in contrast.
Yeah, especially since we've mentioned, the death drives are based on the seven deadly sins classic, right? But they fight the last 5 of them in 4 episodes or something. It's even that felt like that could have been paced out better, right? But
oh man, that does remind me, because we did not talk about this on the last podcast. But I just want to say, I took my shot. I called it, right? As we all now know, right, that Bravern is Lewis from the Bad Future.
Yes.
The only thing I was off on was how recent of a Bad Future it was.
Yeah, it was like a day ago or something.
Yeah, it's we sent Lewis Smith back in time 3 days. I thought, it's Lewis Smith from 50 years in the future. Nope, a week.
Well, they have Lulu come back from farther than much.
That's true. That's true.
But
I just thought extremely goofy, because it's okay, so Lewis dies, had to get sent back a week to become Bravern, and has to improvise this whole fucking Bravern persona on the fly.
Right, because they frame it as he's so much older and wiser now because he probably knows how many years have gone by. He's the same guy. It's just for
the same guy, except he just fused with the horny robot, and so
I don't know how much the horniness was coming from the robot, but anyway, that's very, I think, unintentionally funny, but yes. So Okay. I'm here. I'm gonna choose my words here on this because I did very much enjoy Bravern. I like the ending. I do feel like if I'm gonna have my own criticism in here of it, it kind of just turns into a conventional one of these types of shows, and I feel like maybe some of the unique flavor of Bravern, like the sense of humor, the Superbia getting waterboarded kind of moments disappear in the final couple episodes, and it's a pretty straightforward, escalating powers battle in the end, which is fun. I enjoyed it, and if I who knows how many times they're going to let Obari do this again, so
yeah. I think in some regards, I do understand and echo your sentiments, Jill, that like in many regards the things we loved Bravern for was the like its comedic sensibilities, it's like sometimes almost absurdly dark humor, the way it pokes fun at its tropes. But I also think that on some level it's like, this is kind of the thing that like often happens with a lot of more self-aware mecha anime is like it's still coming from a place of love. The people making these types of shows still truly do love when a robot shouts its attack name, like that is what they live for. So on some level, it's always going to also kind of embrace the artifice of what it is by the end, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't really surprise me about
it's not a
element.
It's not a critique or a parody per se. It's like a celebration of the genre, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense that it's sort of your logical conclusion is just to do the thing, right? But yeah, I don't know. For me, it was just like, it's not even like a huge negative or anything. I just kind of missed some of the sense of humor and things that we had
I do
previously.
think they still do manage to like get it in some spots towards the end here, right? Like when the true final boss, the true final, the true ending boss reveals themselves after all the death drives have been killed.
This completely disrespect the boss completely. Yeah.
And Bravern is just like, fuck it, I got max MP. I'm just spamming every final attack in a row. Just just and some of that is like probably a result of the pacing, right? It's like, well, this show only has like 8 minutes left,
Yeah, we have 8 minutes to fight the boss and wrap things up. Yeah.
So spam these attacks in quick succession, but also it's funny that it does that.
Yes.
I did love that. Like, I'm so glad that like Bravern did not just like magically come back to life for the final fight, right? So the big twist in the penultimate episode is Kenjiro Tsuda kills Bravern seemingly once and for, one exactly. You're trying to ruin Bravern at the last minute one more time. Beats the shit out of Superbia, and I love that like. Because this is, if we want to go back to the whole, like, the thing that's great about Mecha is that the Mecha serves as a surrogate body. The thing that Bravern does here is remember that, like, this is a super robot anime, but it is also still a mecha anime. And so, what did Bravern need to act? Bravern needed bravery. It needed the soul of a hero to drive it. And up till now, it turns out that soul was always Lewis Smith, right? And with Bravern's like soul essentially destroyed, but the body still intact, like Isami realizing, like in almost like Dumbo magical feather moment, right? Like Isami realizes, like,
the real Bravern was inside him all this time. Yeah.
Exactly. I am the driving engine of Bravern. I am the hero, right? Bravery burns in my heart just the same, and is able to, again, perfect that we're recording this today, quite literally resurrect Bravern. Like I really like. I thought that
Bravern rose on the third day to pay for our sins here. Yeah, so
like I actually really enjoyed that as their way of like getting Bravern back in the fight without just explicitly resurrecting. Bravern / Lewis.
Yeah, because it's bringing like a little bit of like that real robot logic into a super show, right? Because
Right.
in a super robot show, like in another Brave series show, I don't know, oh, Jay Decker's been shut down, but our cries of bravery and all of us cheering for him, his AI will reactivate and fix everything. And here it's like
that's the important thing, right? Is that Jay Decker doesn't have a pilot.
Exactly.
Right?
But because Bravern has a pilot, you get that reminder like, all right, this is still a mech, this is still a robot with a pilot. It's just that it had a personality and talked, and we could still drive it without that personality.
I mean, they still sneak in everyone lends their bravery to
well, yeah,
to the moment,
but it's just because and not so that he turns on again, right?
Right.
I mean, I will love the montage of everybody just storming the island, even the like non-combat personnel, like the medics. It's like, what are you doing here?
Everybody just keeps showing
like that's a joke on purpose, right? Like,
yeah, like even the ambulance is driving in. And it's like, it's just an ambulance. Nobody's dead. Like no human is dead. Like, what are you even gonna do?
They had to lend their bravery to.
No, truly, some Goku calling on the energy of everybody on Earth moment. Just
yeah.
No,
it was fun though. Yeah, so I'm not leveling any harsh criticism on the end of it. And maybe this is the show to break the curse.
No.
I mean, Kenjiro Tsuda did show up for like 5 minutes, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say he necessarily added to the show, but perhaps in spite of his appearance, this might be the one. Maybe we were finally free. I don't know.
But yeah, no, I think overall, like, yeah, again, it's like there's a version of this show that like I could truly like love from the bottom of my heart, but the version of that show is either 26 episodes or was made in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the version of Bravern we got is like, in some ways it's still like the best possible version of what this show was going to be if it was made today, right? Like Like, people do not greenlight shows like this anymore. So if someone was going to, this is about as good as you could hope for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the perfect version would be 2 cores, like 24 episodes. I don't know if it would last longer than that, but
that's
enough time.
Yeah,
enough time to give each death drive an episode or 2 to sink in, and we can have more fun adventures with Bravern and not have to kill everybody in the last 4 episodes. I think that would have helped a lot. But yeah, working with what they had to work with, I think they did a good job.
Yeah, I had a good time.
I do think it's kind of fucked up that, like, so, like, I actually really love the bit where, like, at the end, Bravern is, like, disintegrating into dust, right? It's some real, like, it's some real, like, Senketsu dying at the Kill la Kill shit, right? It's
right. Yeah.
And then just a fucking naked Lewis Smith
Yep.
comes back, and he's just like, well, I guess I'm alive again.
Hey, guys.
And I was like, oh, that's great. Yeah, a family can be one naked man, a second naked man, and their alien daughter. But then I was like, wait, but Superbia didn't come back. I think he's still dead. Shit.
Yeah. I think he is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Superbia never does come back. Yeah.
Damn. They just let Uncle die like that, huh?
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yes, they managed to fit in as many naked Asami and Smith scenes as possible toward the end there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of naked space floating and whatnot. But yeah, good times overall.
Yeah, definitely like the most, like, probably the biggest, like, the biggest surprise of the season. Yeah, like the most, like, the one I don't think any of us saw coming. Like, even when, like, it was first announced, I think most. I mean, just look. Did not make our preview show.
No,
like sometimes
not on our radar at all.
When a new original mecha series gets announced, like, there's always a little bit of like, oh boy, who's who's doing it this time? Who's working on it? Like, do we got another Kyokai Senki on our hands here?
Another bullbuster.
Or a bullbuster. And even as much as great of a time as I think we had with those first few episodes, I think there's always that feeling of can Obari actually keep this up?
We were very cautiously optimistic in those first few episodes.
And so it legitimately, in an almost Grand Belm-esque fashion, it just feels really nice to have one of these again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this season. And you guys did finish the Tomino Power Hour, right?
We did.
So that was what was it? Remind me again. It was the three
Xabungle, Dunbine, and L-Gaim.
Right. Real quick. What was your satisfaction level? Well, Ira, you watched Xabungle before. Right?
I had seen Xabungle before. Yeah.
But the other ones, but G, you hadn't, right?
I think in terms of pure enjoyment, Xabungle definitely sits on top. It's just such a it's amazing how good of a comedy writer Tomino turned out to be on that show. And I do want to keep it quick because we're at the end here, but I will just I think but in terms of the one that lives in my head rent free, it's Dunbine.
Yeah.
That show ends so strongly. It's actually unreal. Considering that's the one we were kind of lukewarm on. At the start.
It's been a long time since we talked about it, but I feel like that was the one that you guys were kind of most
Mm-hmm.
Dunbine is full Yoshiyuki, I have something to say about politics, Tomino. That is the one where he's going hard into the paint of cycles of violence, the inevitability of human nature, the ways in which war corrupts the souls of men. Dunbine is just wow. Again, we can't get into it too much. It's just
yes.
Dunbine's Iro can back me up on this. Dunbine is a show where when we finished the penultimate episode and we saw the next episode preview for the final episode, even that next episode preview hit harder than some entire shows I have watched.
Wow.
It was good. I think that's all. It shows also the power of a really strong ending to paper over maybe a not as interesting middle third, right? It's for a while there, it's it's trucking along, but the
good ending goes a long way.
Last couple episodes really landed. And
conversely, I guess we could say this thing holds true because L-Gaim is probably the one we ended up the most lukewarm on by the end. Despite the manic start, how much we loved the kind of kooky energy that L-Gaim had. Pretty just kind of
doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, kind of just low energy ending,
right.
Honestly.
It's
unfocused. Unfocused is maybe the best word for
it's been documented before that in the second half or so of L-Gaim, Tomino was working on pre-production for Zeta Gundam and wasn't really paying much attention to L-Gaim. And I think it shows.
Yes.
And it also shows when Minoru Nagano starts taking more control of the show.
Right.
And it starts becoming proto 5-star stories.
Yeah, the last 8 to 10 episodes, you can truly feel that this is now being directed and written by basically another person, despite the fact that Tomino's name is still on it. And unfortunately, I would say it's probably for the worse, right? Because it introduces a lot of interesting concepts, but they're ones that were not supported by the earlier parts of the show. It kind of engages in this very kind of high-minded space opera mythicness that you definitely then see later in Nagano's later works, 5-star stories, but it doesn't really organically fit well within what L-Gaim was up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ending is just kind of lackluster. Just didn't really hit, like it did not hit either emotionally or dramatically. It did not really make good on any of the things we liked about L-Gaim starting out. So
Yeah.
Still an interesting show. One I'm glad we watched because there's a lot of things about L-Gaim, or all three of these shows, that you would see repeated again later in later Tomino shows, sometimes to much better effect. Like, there is a weird, like, lineage between heavy metal L-Gaim and Turn A Gundam. In the ways and the ways in which Turn A Gundam does many of the things L-Gaim attempts, but much better. It's kind of cool to see that with a creator this prolific, right? Like, when you have somebody who's been working in anime for 4-5 goddamn decades, right? It's like, it's legitimately cool to see how they grew,
Yeah.
And so, for that reason, L-Gaim was still an interesting watch, but yeah, definitely
the bottom of the three by the end.
I would say so.
All right. And you guys are on to Outlaw Star now.
Yes.
Not written by Tomino.
No, not written by Tomino. It's just that, like, me and Aero have just been, like, offhandedly talking about Outlaw Star for, like, what feels like 9 months now.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, there was this really cool 90s sci-fi anime called Outlaw Star.
I remember watching, like, an episode or two, and I was at a point in my life, because I was probably, like, 17 or 18 or something, where I thought it was too cool for that kind of anime. I wanted the
I'm sorry, Jill. There's no way you could have been too cool for Outlaw Star.
Well,
Outlaw Star.
I feel like I would probably enjoy it if I watched it now. But back then, I was like real like, I only want to watch like deep and meaningful anime, And, So, to be clear, I thought I was too cool.
Yes,
I'm not claiming I was too cool to watch it.
We were all teenagers once as well.
I was at that age where I was like, I want the real, deep and meaningful things, and not like this, wacky space cowboys or whatever. But yeah. All right. So we'll end it there. New season coming up, soon. Like this week. So everybody,
I could use another week off.
Yeah, I haven't looked at exactly the dates, but I mean, typically, yes, it would be this week that new shows would be starting. So
I think, like, aside from any kind of special event pre-releases or whatever, I'm pretty sure going into the weekend.
We might have till Friday or something. Right?
Maybe if you're very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, then, to our housekeeping, check us out at theglorioblog.com, where you will be able to see all of our written first looks for the new shows coming up, and all of our previous ones as well. You can. I said I'm not doing Twitter anymore, so don't follow us there. But we are on co-host at GLORIO. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and of course YouTube, where you can like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, all those good things. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch everybody next time.